Good morning. This is KELOLAND on the go with all you need to know in news and weather as you start your day.
A Mitchell businessman is back in jail accused of driving under the influence of drugs. 44-year-old Corey Cummings was charged with a DUI earlier this month after crashing into a parked car at a high school in Mount Vernon.
Cummings is due back in court on the 25th. He has 5 hearings coming up in February for several other pending cases. Investigators are looking into what sparked a fire at a Mitchell business last week. Mitchell Fire says it was called to the scene on Main Street just before 12:30 Friday afternoon. Officials say a person had entered the business, saw flames, and called 911.
Crews arriving on scene found smoke coming from the building. Multiple businesses were located inside, so Mount Vernon and Ethan fire departments were called in to help. The fire was contained to one business, but the whole building has smoke damage. 2 weeks ago, a man was found dead outside near the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House. Now police are investigating another unattended death. On Sunday, a man was found dead inside a parking garage in downtown Sioux Falls.
Family members had not heard from the man in over a day. They didn't call police until they discovered him deceased in the stairwell of the parking ramp. Police say no foul play is suspected at this time. An autopsy is scheduled to determine the cause of death. Tribal law enforcement on the Cheyenne River Reservation are trying to figure out if the extreme cold earlier this month led to the death of a 68-year-old man in Eagle Butte. Authorities were called for a welfare check on January 13th. Officers found the man sitting slumped over in a wheelchair in a camper.
Officers had gotten a similar call the day before and talked with the man about getting help from a family member. Law enforcement say they tried contacting a relative but could not get a hold of them.
Now let's get a check on our weather with meteorologist Brian Karstens. A foggy start to the day, Brian.
Yes, fog. We're dealing with that story this morning. And on the weather maps today, we'll kind of deal with the after effects of that with the cloud cover a little thicker. And as a result, temperatures just kind of holding steady in the low 30s from Pierre to Aberdeen, Sioux Falls area 33. We do, however, expect more warming there in the southwest with mid-upper 40s from Custer to Rapid City. That's a quick look at weather. We'll get into the full forecast details coming up here in just a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Brian. Warmer weather is back after several days of frigid temperatures over the past few weeks. KELOLAND News checked in with the Garrettson School District to find out how its electric buses fared during the cold snap.
The superintendent says when sub-zero temperatures hit, the buses lose some charge, but that's expected. Even in the cold, there's plenty of power for the bus routes. The district received the buses through a federal program. Attorney General Marty Jackley is encouraging South Dakota lawmakers to pass 5 pieces of legislation. Jackley is proposing the legislation with the help of the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
2 proposals would toughen up laws concerning drugs like fentanyl and xylazine. Another would address child pornography created with artificial intelligence.
The process is really straightforward, that they are introduced on behalf of the chair for the Attorney General. And then I have a responsibility to speak to the merits of that. One thing that I've always experienced with the legislature is they always give me my day to be heard.
Jackley is also asking lawmakers to require all registered sex offenders to stay on the list for 10 years. He's also pushing legislation that would lead to more government transparency. Lincoln County landowners had their first day in court for their lawsuit against the state of South Dakota. More than 100 supporters of the group NOPE filled 2 rooms in the courthouse yesterday to hear the state argue its motion to dismiss their lawsuit, challenging the state's proposed location for the men's prison.
While the lawsuit argues the state cannot override the county's zoning and comprehensive plan, the state's main arguments centered around the state's sovereign immunity that preempts any county matters.
They're the sovereignty, and the rest of us should bow down to that, which is concerning for me going forward, knowing that any other state project really could trample any county ordinance.
Basically they said that the position of the people holds no merit, and I'm pretty certain one of the primary claims of our government is that under God the people rule.
The judge heard arguments Monday, but will wait to issue a decision on the state's motion to dismiss the case. That's a look at some of our top stories.
Now let's get one last look at your weather with meteorologist Brian Karstens. Brian?
All right, our weather update today, looking at that fog story out there. Most of western and central South Dakota under dense fog advisories. Sioux Falls not on the list at this point, but certainly we're watching fog that's developed within the last hour or so, and then, going through the mid-morning hours. Some of this will hang on, obviously, due to the lack of winds. That's a big contributing factor. Let's look at temperatures, too. On the hour, you can see upper 20s, and we're edging into the 30s as we head through the afternoon. Don't forget, too, western South Dakota, a little better opportunities today for some sunshine and thus the warmer temperatures in the forecast. Overnight, you bet we're back to some fog. I would expect there'll be at least patches of that. Eastern and central South Dakota, the numbers really don't move a lot. We'll primarily start the morning in the upper 20s, and then we'll see 30s tomorrow again. Central, eastern KELOLAND for highs. Western areas, you bet, we're back into the 40s for Rapid City. Get used to these milder numbers. Most of this extended forecast is going that direction. I know, when we start right off the bat, sure, it feels better. It's obviously a big change from last week. But the story is we are only beginning this path toward milder weather. Take a look at what happens as we turn the page into next week. Do you see in Canada all this eruption of the pinks and even these gray and charcoal colors? The numbers in Canada are going to be at least 30 degrees above normal. A lot of it has to do with overnight lows being warmer, and it's all connected to this Pacific air that's going to come roaring across the Rockies. It descends into the plains and the prairies of the midsection of the country, and all it does is it warms up, and really at this point it's just a matter of how much that snow cover, how fast it's going to melt, how that's going to affect our daytime highs a little bit more. Obviously, those of us that are dealing with more of it on the ground will be last on the list to see those very mild temperatures. But just to give you a hint, once we cross over into February, we're seeing more signals that 50-degree weather, even for those that have snow on the ground, it's more than likely going to result in that type of weather. But we're still probably a few days away from that in Sioux Falls. I'd give it at least a week, if not more, as we slowly chip away at some of this. 33 today, Sioux Falls for a high. 48 over in Rapid City. Forecast lows tonight will generally be in the middle to upper 20s here. And then for tomorrow, we'll see highs rebounding again in the 30s. East River, 50 Rapid City. Yeah, we're going to try for that. And if we're not successful on that attempt, we'll likely get there in the 7-day. Here's to the Sioux Falls 7-day forecast. Low to mid 30s, pretty much all the way through here. Just deeper snow, any cloud cover effects. We kind of have to keep that in mind here. So I'm not going to go really high on those numbers yet. Aberdeen, though, can start to open up here day 6 and day 7. The anticipation is our snow cover is going to lessen and we'll see 40s. I would expect Pierre also will break out into the 40s. Northwest South Dakota is going to be a source region where things are warming up. And look at this, Black Hills and Rapid City next week already on the table, 55 to 60 degree weather. Check out the details. They're online at KELOLAND.com.